Hi everyone, I'm Cassie and this is Jared from the Meetup, and we're gonna teach you how to cook a couple of different steaks today.
So today we're gonna be cooking a ribeye and a New York.
And we're gonna do two different methods. We're gonna start on the grill with our thicker New York, and then we're gonna transition to a cast iron for the thinner ribeye.
So come cook with us on this beautiful summer day and we'll show you how it's done.
We're cooking two different cuts of varying thickness today. We've got a thick cut prime New York that we're gonna cook on the barbecue, and we have a thinner choice ribeye that we're gonna cook in a cast iron skillet on the stovetop. It's grilling season here, so either steak could be easily cooked on a grill also. Everyone has a cooking method they feel most comfortable with. Give both a try and see what works best for you.
To prep these steaks, we took them out of the fridge and let them come to a room temperature, so at least 30 minutes before cooking. This will ensure that they cook evenly on the grill or in the pan. We use a paper towel to pat them dry. This will help us get that really great sear and crust that we want on them. Right before cooking, we season them liberally with salt and pepper. When it comes to salt, you almost can't oversalt your steak. It'll bring out the wonderful beef flavor, so make sure you get the entire surface area coated in salt. Some people might add additional seasonings like granulated garlic, but we're just gonna let that great beef flavor shine through with a simple seasoning. Now that our steaks are prepped and ready, we're gonna transition to throwing them on the grill and cooking them up. We preheated our grill for a good 15 minutes before we began cooking and gave it a good scrape down so it's nice and clean. We've got our gas grill extremely hot on one side, and on the other side we've got it turned down to more medium heat. We start by placing this thick steak on the hot side of the grill because we want to sear the outside of the meat first. When we sear the meat, we are caramelizing the natural sugars at extremely high temperature, forming a rich brown crust on the surface of the meat. This is going to amplify the savory flavors of the finished product, helping to lock in the juiciness of the steak and ensure tenderness. Try and leave the steak alone as much as possible. Let the high heat do its job. If your meat has a lot of fat, the drippings will cause your grill to flame some. When that happens, you can move your steak around a little so that it doesn't burn from the direct flame. Now that we're happy with the sear on the steak, we can move it over to the cooler side of our grill. This steak is seared on the outside, but probably still rare in the middle. At this point, we'll close the lid of our grill and let the steak roast a little on the indirect heat, allowing it to finish cooking on the interior. This is a good time to cook our thinner steak. We've got our cast iron pan really hot. We added a couple tablespoons of beef tallow so that it doesn't stick. We like the tallow because it has a great beefy flavor and has a high smoke point, so it's not gonna burn like butter or olive oil might. When you see ripples in the tallow, you can add your steak and leave it to allow that caramelization to take place. Have patience here, don't mess with it. We let our steak cook for about 2 minutes on one side and then flipped it. Depending on how hot your pan is, typically you want to go about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, just until you get that nice caramelization. Once we're confident it's cooked how we want it, we can pull it off. An instant read thermometer is a great tool to ensure that your meat is cooked exactly as you want it to be. You want to pull the steak about 5 degrees lower than your desired finish temperature. When you let it rest, it will continue to cook. All right, so now we're letting our steaks rest. This is a very important process of cooking a steak. Thinner steak, you want to rest at least 3 to 5 minutes. A thicker steak, with more patience, probably like 7 to 10 minutes. All right, so let's let it rest and we'll start cutting into them.
So to recap, we let our steaks come to room temperature before cooking. We season liberally with salt and a little pepper. For our thicker steak, we got the gas grill really hot on one side and cooler on the other, creating 2 temperature zones, one for searing and one for finishing the inside. Once both sides were seared, we moved it to the cooler side, closed the barbecue lid, and waited patiently. We checked the temperature with an instant read thermometer and we pulled our steak right about 127 degrees, knowing that the internal temp will come up a little bit as it rests. For our thinner ribeye, we used a piping hot cast iron pan with a little beef tallow in it to prevent sticking. Once it was hot, we put the steak down and let it sear for about 2 to 3 minutes. We flipped it and then cooked for an additional 2 to 3 minutes. Remember, a great caramelized crust will result in awesome flavor, so make sure it looks brown and crusted. Then we patiently let our steaks rest before slicing because we want to keep all those juices in the steak and not let them get all over the cutting board. All right, so we've got a good caramelized crust, we've got pink inside, and we're ready to try it. I'm going ribeye first.
Me too, it's my favorite.
All right. Good job.
The thing I love about the ribeye is just that beefy, buttery flavor. Still super tender, best of both worlds in my opinion.
Yeah, that center cut part with the tenderness, I don't know that you can beat that. It's like the butteriest part. Is butteriest a word?
It is now. All right, now we're gonna get some of the New York. What I love about the New York is that like beefy Such a beefy flavor.
Flavor is so good, especially the crust. You get a good bite through the crust and the flavor just really shines through.
Yeah.
So as you can see, either of these steaks are totally doable for a weeknight, for a special weekend meal. It's totally doable for anybody. And we have these steaks at the meetup all the time. We have thick cut options, we've got thinner cuts, we've got ribeyes, New Yorks, fillets, anything you want. Yeah, so come on down to the meetup. We have all these different options for you. We'll help you find the exact cut you want.